There are 5 huge signs coming out of Ohio State's first week of fall camp that I've already changed how I'm looking at this team because of them. And I'm not talking about Jeremiah Smith being good. Okay, we knew that. Nobody these are not like, oh, Jeremiah Smith, best receiver in the country. Yes, welcome to college football. I'm talking about a transfer receiver who, I'll be honest, I've been dismissing too much and might be forcing Ohio State to find him snaps, maybe as the second wide receiver, a running back competition that might not actually be a competition anymore because there may be room for 2 featured backs, a former 5-star defensive lineman who looks like he might finally be turning into that monster everybody thought he could be, a true freshman who's already taking first team defensive reps, and then Legend Bey, because I think what happened with Bey this week may actually accelerate Ohio State toward using him in the role that makes him the most dangerous. Now listen, 3 practices don't give us the entire depth chart. That's not what I'm saying. They don't tell us who's going to dominate against Texas in September, and coaches always use different things to motivate guys. But they do give us clues, and these 5 clues are worth paying attention to. So I'm John with BuckeyeHuddle.com, where you will find Ohio State coverage, elite recruiting intel, and none of the toxic noise out there. We just cover the team, talk ball. That's what the kind of stuff we do. And so come on over to the message board, talk with us there. Join me, Connor Smith, Mark Givler, Kevin Noon, TJ Warner, all the dudes over there. We'd love to have you there. All right, so takeaway number 1. Devin McCuin might be forcing Ohio State's hand. Devin McCuin might be turning into Ohio State's secret weapon at wide receiver, and that's a big deal. I mean, a bigger deal than it sounds like, because think about how we talked about this receiver room entering into camp. Obviously, Jeremiah Smith is Jeremiah Smith. Brandon Inniss is the veteran, always kind of had him as wide receiver 2. Chris Henry Jr. is the 5-star freshman everybody's been waiting to see. Phillip Bell has been developing. Kyle Parker came in from LSU, kind of seen as the guy who's the most likely wide receiver 3. That's his job to lose, is kind of the way I saw it. And then Brock Boyd is the fun name that surprised people in spring camp, and now everyone wants to keep hearing about him, wants to keep seeing him. There are talented players everywhere in this wide receiver room, just not like the Carnell Tate future first round pick lock or anything like that. But where exactly was McCuin supposed to fit? Well, maybe we're asking the wrong question here. Maybe the question should be, how does Ohio State keep McCuin off the field if that continues, right? McCuin is a senior transfer from UTSA, and the Buckeyes already knew they were getting an experienced receiver with legitimate speed. Julian Sayin praised that speed during the spring, and McCuin was among the receivers generating positive attention again at preseason camp when it opened. Here's the Ohio State receiver nobody is talking about enough. He's Devin McCuin, because everybody came into the season, into the preseason, trying to figure out who would become the next Ohio State superstar opposite of Jeremiah Smith. Would it be Chris Henry Jr. because of his 5-star status, freshman, getting him to come in? Is it Brandon Inniss? Could we see a breakout after his first year playing? Maybe he just wasn't utilized the right way. You had Max Clare, Carnell Tate. He was just hidden a little bit. Is it Phillip Bell? Maybe. But what if Ohio State doesn't actually need a superstar? What if what Julian's saying needs is a veteran receiver who gets open, stretches the defense, understand where he's supposed to be, and can punish a defender for spending all its or a defense for spending all of its resources trying to stop Jeremiah Smith? That's where McCuin becomes really interesting. Ohio State didn't bring in a senior transfer from UTSA because it needed another body in Brian Hartline's old receiver room. And now he's flashing early in camp. One practice, that's fine. I'm not going to ignore it, but I'm not going to use it as the biggest thing out there. But after 3 practices, his name keeps appearing as camp continues on. Eventually, you have to stop calling it a nice story and start asking whether Ohio State found something truly incredible here. Not another first-round pick, but something that could fit the system exactly the way you want it. Because with Jeremiah Smith pulling coverage toward him, kind of magnetizing the coverage, right? The most dangerous receiver on this offense might occasionally be the guy who is the most explosive, and defenses cannot afford to leave alone. And Devin McCuin is starting to look like a candidate for that job. Let me know what you think, though. Do you think Devin McCuin's that guy? You think Brandon Inniss is that guy? Would love to know your thoughts. Like the video and give me your thoughts down in the comment section. And here's where I do like McCuin's potential role so much. He doesn't have to become Cardinal Tate. He doesn't need 1,000 yards. If he's dependable enough that Sayan trusts him on 3rd and 7, great. If he can punish a defense for rolling coverage toward Jeremiah Smith, great. If he can turn 5 or 6 touches into meaningful plays, you've added another problem for an offense that already had too many for the defense. If you keep watching this one, I do think we're going to see something very big from Devin McCuin this season, and it could be really impactful. We'll see how camp goes, but I think we're seeing the starts of it. Takeaway number 2, Isaiah West may be too good to call a backup. Now, let's get to running back here, because I came in talking about Bo Jackson as running back 1, Isaiah West kind of running back 2, but maybe could have a little bit of a bigger role than what we're anticipating. And everybody else was fighting for whatever remained. I'm not sure that's the right way to describe this anymore. This, I asked the question, could this be a dual featured back or a running back by committee? And it does look like there could be aspects of that. Isaiah West has gotten meaningful work with the first team offense early in camp after already flashing explosiveness during limited opportunities last season. Officially, West finished 2025 with 310 rushing yards despite only 108 offensive snaps, including 61 yards on 8 carries against UCLA. That's why I'm not framing this as like, oh, Isaiah West is beating out Bo Jackson. I don't think we have evidence for that, and I think Bo Jackson is too good to just be straight up beat up. All right, I think the more interesting possibility is that West is becoming too good for Ohio State to treat him like just a conventional backup. And Arthur Smith would love that. Bo Jackson carried the football 179 times last season and dealt with injuries. In his high school career, he dealt with injuries, right? You're entering a season where Ohio State has Texas, and week 2 you have Iowa, Indiana, USC, Oregon, Michigan, and potentially multiple postseason games. Why would you ask one running back to absorb all the punishment if you have 2 backs who you can legitimately trust? Maybe 3. I mean, we're talking about Jacoby Jackson at some point. Maybe 3. This could become less like an RB1 and RB2 and more like the 1A and 1B, similar to the Quinshawn Judkins, Travion Henderson thing, which I did reference not too long ago. Bo gives you a combination of power and explosiveness. West gives you another explosive runner who has already produced when opportunities came into his way, and he has really good vision and just a knack for carrying the football. And then Jacoby Jackson gives you another veteran option behind them. That's not a controversy. I mean, this is turning into a luxury right now. The rumor I'm buying after week 1 isn't that Bo Jackson's losing his job. I don't think anybody should be in the right mind saying that. It's that the job itself may be changing. Instead of asking Bo Jackson 20 carries a game, West gets 6, 7, 8, 10 maybe. We need to start asking whether Ohio State can keep both guys around 12 to 15 touches and have fresher legs when November arrives. Because if Isaiah West keeps forcing the issue, Arthur Smith would be crazy not to use him. Takeaway number 3. Eddrick Houston might finally be becoming that dude, might finally be becoming that guy. Now, here's the defensive development that has me most excited after the first week. Eddrick Houston, because there has never really been a question about whether the dude has talent. Former 5-star, big, explosive, dude can come off the edge and dude can pass rush up the middle. I mean, the dude is obviously explosive, and there's clear reasons why he's a 5-star. Athletic enough that Ohio State initially recruited him as a defensive end before his body and role kind of evolved his freshman year and he started playing more inside. The problem has been getting the full version of Eddrick Houston consistently on Saturdays. Last season got disrupted early by the injury, but he still finished with 21 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, and 3 sacks in 13 games. He closed the season with a career best 5 tackles and 1.5 sacks against Miami. Now he's battling Alabama transfer James Smith, the major snaps inside. And once the pads start coming on this week, Houston started making some real noise. The biggest development at Ohio State camp might not involve one of the transfers. It might be Eddrick Houston finally becoming the player everybody thought Ohio State was getting. Remember, this wasn't some development 3-star prospect. Houston arrived with 5-star ability. He was athletic enough to play defensive end and big enough to eventually move inside. Then 2025 got disrupted by injury, and that's why what we're seeing now matters a whole lot, because Houston didn't finish last season playing bad football. He ended it with a career high 5 tackles and 1.5 sacks against Miami. Now he's healthy, he's more experienced, and he's competing against the guys that they brought in, one of them being Alabama transfer James Smith, for snaps. If Eddrick Houston makes the leap Ohio State has been waiting for, suddenly James Smith doesn't have to save the defensive tackle room, he enhances it. That's a massive difference for what this defensive line can be for Matt Patricia and the defense, because the best version of Ohio State's defense isn't one transfer happy, trying to get a transfer to become a superstar. It's Houston becoming a star and James Smith being alongside him good. If that, if both happens, if both are stars, awesome. Nobody's going to say no. Larry Johnson might have another interior rotation that absolutely ruins other teams' afternoons if this comes through and develops. That's the part I don't want us to overlook. James Smith coming from Alabama was huge, but the best possible outcome isn't James Smith replacing Houston. Nobody wants that to happen necessarily. It's Houston becoming so good that Ohio State has to figure out how to maximize both of them. Imagine trying to protect Julian Sayin and practice against those bodies every day. And if Houston carries that momentum through August, we're no longer talking about a talented player who might break out eventually. We're talking about a potential centerpiece of this defense. Takeaway number 4. Jay Timmons might actually win a starting job on offense. Jay Timmons, maybe the most influential flip in Ryan Day's history in recruiting at Ohio State. I mean, this one's pretty wild. Jay Timmons, and I'm kind of going out of here on a leg a little bit, but stay with me, all right? Jay Timmons is a true freshman, not a redshirt freshman, not a transfer who played 30 college games, a true freshman. And Ohio State has already been giving him first team work at nickel. Timmons arrived as one of the highest rated members of Ohio State's 2026 class. Even before fall camp, there were legitimate beliefs about his versatility that gave him an immediate path onto the field. Just we didn't always think it was going to be starting on the field. Maybe get some snaps, maybe rotate in, do some of the things. But earlier depth chart projections had Earl Little ahead of him. Now Timmons is getting opportunities with the ones. That gets my attention really fast. And again, it's just the first week of fall camp. I'm not saying that he definitely is going to be starting or anything, but it is something to monitor, because coaches don't normally just throw a freshman into a position like nickel just because he was highly rated. You got to earn that. You got to be there for that, especially when you got transfers who are also vying for the same spot. Nickel isn't, go stand outside and cover that dude. You've got run fits, motion, communication, route combinations, pressure responsibilities. I mean, there are aspects of the nickel position that are more difficult to know and be able to implement than some of the other positions on the field. It doesn't get all that much, credit in like the NFL drafts and stuff, but it really is a very important position and a very difficult position, especially for a true freshman. You can be involved in basically everything. So if Timmons is already trusted enough to get legitimate first team looks there, that's telling us something for sure. Ohio State may have a true freshman starting on defense this season, and almost nobody expected it to happen this quickly. Jay Timmons is already getting first-team opportunities at nickel, and understand what this means. Nickel is not a position where you hide a freshman. This player has to cover. He has to tackle. He has to understand formations. He has to communicate. He may be involved in pressure packages as well. One busted assignment can turn into 6 points. So when Ohio State puts a true freshman there with the first team defense, I'm paying attention right away. Now, am I declaring that Jay Timmons is the starter after 3 practices? Absolutely not. Again, that we are not forming the depth chart after 3 practices. But that's how camp reactions and things get us to kind of look at things and say, okay, who's standing out? Maybe he's not going to be the starter, but who is standing out in the coach's eyes and earning trust and earning respect? But can he legitimately win the job? I think the answer's changed. Before camp, the question was whether Timmons could get onto the field as a true freshman. Now, I'm wondering whether Ohio State is going to have a hard time taking him off the field. And if that continues for another couple weeks, Ryan Day and Matt Patricia may have found their next young defensive star before the kid has even played his first college snaps. And remember his name when he gets 2 weeks deeper into camp and you start hearing about freshmen flashing and all that fun stuff, freshmen continuing to run with the veterans. That's when a storyline becomes a depth chart battle. And you actually do need to think about it a lot because Jermaine Matthews has been working with Jay Timmons in practice to get him more ready for that position. You don't take a starter off the field to go work with a dude just to help him out a little bit extra. It's really important. Takeaway number 5 is Legend Bey's path may have actually become clear. And finally, Legend Bey. I want to be careful with this one because it is very easy to turn 2 missed practices into something dramatic and that it really isn't, right? Bey missed the beginning of camp following a team rules violation. We can speculate on what that was. Was he late to a meeting? Was it something with his TikTok? Was it a social media post? No, nobody knows. The fact is that the team rules he had a team rules broke the team rules. I'm not interested in pretending it's some enormous crisis, but while he was, taking those reps, Isaiah West was making an impression. Jacoby Jackson is still there. Bo Jackson is still your proven back. So when Bey gets fully rolling, where are his touches coming from? Here's my answer. Maybe that's exactly the wrong question because Legend Bey was never interesting because he looked like your conventional 25 carry running back. Ohio State's own roster lists him at 5'10", 177 pounds, and the excitement around him since the spring has centered on his versatility, explosive playmaking ability. You got to just get him out there on the field as best you possibly can, whether it's running back, whether it's wide receiver. Get him on the field and get to using him. Ryan Day has previously invoked players such as Curtis Samuel when discussing the possibility of Bey. So maybe Isaiah West emerging doesn't even really affect Legend Bey at all. Maybe it helps define him. Don't ask Bey to beat out West for the RB2 job, right? Don't ask him to take Bo Jackson's job. Find 10 ways to make the defense worry about the number 2 player and where he is standing on the field. Put him in the backfield, motion him out, use him in the slot, jet sweep, orbit motion, screens, return game, fake touches. We all know Arthur Smith loves his play action. Use him any way you possibly can to make him a threat. They'll make the linebackers communicate every single time they see him on the field. Make a safety hesitate every single time he sees him in motion going across the team. Make a defensive coordinator spend meeting time preparing for a freshman who might only touch the ball 5 or 10 times. That's where this gets fun because Ohio State doesn't need Bey to be a finished running back in September. They need him to just be dangerous. Just be somebody that's dangerous. And the crowded running back room might actually force Ohio State toward the exact role that maximizes what makes him so different. That's my early prediction. Legend Bey isn't going to become important by winning the normal, depth chart battle. I don't think he's going to become important by creating a role nobody else on this team can truly fill. And that's what I got. Those are the 5 huge Ohio State takeaways I have from week 1 of camp. What are your takeaways? Would love to know what you think. So after the first week, here's where I've kind of changed my mind a little bit. Devin McCuin looks more capable of forcing his way into the receiver rotation than I expected. Isaiah West looks less like, kind of your traditional backup and more like somebody Ohio State is going to have a running back 1A and 1B type of situation there. Ohio State has to feed him. Eddrick Houston might finally be becoming the 5-star defensive playmaker that we've been waiting for ever since he stepped foot on campus. And Jay Timmons has turned nickel into a future opportunity, into a legitimate present-day starting battle. And Legend Bey, I think the crowded running back room could actually push Ohio State toward using him in his most dangerous role. None of those jobs are decided. It's August 9th when I'm recording this. But camp is about collecting clues. And those are the 5 biggest clues that I saw in week 1 of Ohio State camp. If you want clear and honest Buckeye analysis without the national media noise and all those different things, and you just want it straight ball and talk here, subscribe and join the Buckeye Huddle, and tell me in the comments which of the 5 developments do you think matters most for Ohio State this season, or which one are you monitoring most and thinking the most about? Would love to hear about it in the comments below. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.